What you see on the screen is an example of the many primary ways you can format a date in Microsoft Excel. We're going to start by doing some experimenting with cell A2. It's the blue cell on your screen. In order to type in a date, you can do it one of two general ways. You can use the dashes or you can use the forward slashes. I will type in 9/1/17 and press enter, and it recognizes it as a date. Or I can delete it. I can go 9 and then use my dash key, -1/17, and it sees that as a date. Now if my cell is formatted as general, it will look rather odd. So I'm going to go up to my Home tab, and then I'm going to move over to my formatting, and I'll change date to general, and it turns it to this number. So if I'm typing something in that's a date and it comes in rather odd because it's trying to treat it as something else, how do I fix it? Well, the easiest way to do is go to your formatting of numbers, use your drop down, and pick either short date or long date, and it will say, oh, this is supposed to be a date, and it will render the correct date. If the cell is already formatted as a date, I'm going to delete the contents again. You notice cell B2 says you type in the month and day, it will supply the current year. So if I just type in 9/1 and without the year, then press enter, it will automatically insert the current year since this is being recorded in 2016. So that's a shortcut if you're working on a date in the current year. Let me give you some variations. Everything you see in this table is for the same date. You have a short date and you have a long date. Now the easiest way to get to these, and I've formatted them in dark text, is simply go to in the ribbon on the Home tab, go down to the date key, and you have short date and you have long date. And the short date is probably the most common used in Microsoft Excel, but you can have either one of these, their default here. So that's how you get to each of these. Everything else in the list you have to get to through another click, and let me show you about that. If I click on the date tab, I have more number formats at the bottom. And at the bottom, if I go to the date category, I can click, I'll move this over in the area where you can see it better. I have all these various options on how dates will look. And most of them I have in the grid you see here. I can get there that way by simply clicking on date and choosing more number formats, or another way is just to click on the little down right arrow at the corner and I get to the same screen that way. So those are two ways to get to all the sub areas of how to format a date. Let's look at what each of them are. You can just have a numeric month and day. This one leaves the year out, but if I click on the cell, it still contains the year, just doesn't show it. Or I can have the numeric day, month, and year, or I can have the numeric one with a 0 to make the column widths equal for any day in the year. The one below that is the alphabetic short character for the month, which in this case is S for September, and plus the 2 digits for the year. That one below that is I can have the date plus the time. This would be military time. Or I can have date plus the time with AM or PM. Both of these have the time, in this case, identical, which is midnight, which is 0, because I simply entered this in without putting a time in. If you format it to include the time, and you don't add time after the date, it will automatically default to midnight. Now let me type this in differently. I'll delete it, and I'll type in 9/1/17 space, and then I'll put in the time, let's say 4:30 p.m. and it's 16:30 military time. If I were using it in this cell here, it would say 4:30. But that's how you enter time. You just enter a space and then put the time. Again, if you're putting time and you don't put in AM or PM, let's see what happens. 9/1/17, and I'll put in 4:30, no AM or PM. It assumes it's AM. That's what you get. So that's date and time. You can either go military or AM, PM. Another option is the full name of the month plus the date plus the 4 digits for the year. Or you can have a format where it abbreviates the month and then gives you the day. Again, it doesn't give you the year, but if we click on the cell, we can find out in the formula bar we still did enter a year. It just doesn't show it. Or you can use the day of the year first and then the month, or the full name of the month followed by the year with no day. Or you can have the numeric of the day, the abbreviated month, and the year. Or you can have this one here, which just contains the short version of the month, and S for September. But again, if I click on it and you look at the formula bar at the top, you see I have all the information. But I formatted it this way, so that's all I want to see. Let me give you some very nice shortcuts in putting a date in. If you want to put in the current date that's in your system clock in your computer, you hold the control key down and hit the semicolon key. I'll do that here, control, semicolon, and it pops in the current date this is being recorded. Very nice. I can also format this to enter in, notice it used 12 AM because now I have it formatted on my date field with AM and PM. Let me go back simply to the simple one where I want the date only. Less confusing on that one. Okay, if I want the current time, I hold down the control key, hit the shift key at the same time, and press the colon key. And that gives the time at which this is being recorded. So those are two great shortcuts. I use the control semicolon quite a bit. If you want to put both the date and the time from the current clock, you can combine the two. I can do control semicolon, or lift up all the keys, press the space bar, and I can go control shift semicolon, and I get date and time. So those are nice shortcuts. Once again, if you enter the time in a field and deliberately, and you don't have it formatted to show the time, it will not do so. But it will still store that information in your cell.
As you've seen, you have many options to choose from in formatting dates in Microsoft Excel. We encourage you to experiment and find those formats that work best for you in your situation. Also remember to use the control semicolon combination to insert the current date. It's a very handy shortcut. We hope these tutorials are helpful to you. If you find them useful, please like us here at the Sharper Turtle and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you.